Yo, what is up, YouTube? It's your boy Legend, and I am back with another video. Now, I know I'm late, but I had to go and do grown-up stuff. I had to go out, get my meds, and all that other kind of stuff. But I'm coming at you guys with some heat. New series. What if Naruto was a failed experiment? Now, I'm going to let you guys know right off rip, it starts off a little sad. But we have a like goal for this video. If you want the next part of this, you're going to have to get this video to at least 5 likes. If you want the next part fast, I want 15 likes. But without further ado, let's get into this intro so we can start this what if.
Space, I'm protective. My adrenaline spikes when I'm threatened. And if you stay in my way, I'm aggressive. Cause when there's no exit, I'll kill when I'm desperate.
Minato sat next to his wife Kushina in the pouring rain. The two of them were not even listening to the words that were being spoken. It sounded like slow motion static. Kushina herself had an iron grip on Minato's hand as she wept. There were others who sat in the rain with them who wept as well. But the death of Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, it hit everyone hard, especially because he was only a 4-year-old. But it hit Lady Kushina and Minato Namikaze the hardest, as everyone attended the funeral in the poor weather. Minato tried desperately to fight back tears, but he failed, just like he failed at protecting his son. He grit his teeth and balled his hand into a fist until his knuckles were white and blood began to leak from his palms. I swear, whoever did this, I will find you, and I will kill you. The calm that Minato said this statement with was terrifying. It was so terrifying that a chill ran down Kushina's spine. Flashback, Naruto's POV. Naruto was running home from his friend Sasuke's house. It was still fairly early in the day, only around 4 p.m. as he ran. He received waves from the citizens and he gladly returned the waves back. Naruto then heard a lot of clattering and things falling inside of a weapon shop, and he went to see what was happening. He entered to see a white-haired teen with glasses sitting on his butt, with boxes scattered everywhere. "Are you okay, Kabuto-san?" The teen's stomach dropped as he heard Naruto enter the shop. But he was going to do what he needed to do. Naruto-kun, yes, I'm fine. I'm just struggling to get this box of weapons to my home. Hey, if I put some of these weapons into a smaller box, do you think you could help carry some of them home with me? I'll even pay you for your troubles. Naruto didn't have to think long. He was going to help someone and get paid for it. This would even help him get a present for his mom since her birthday was coming up in 2 days. Naruto immediately grabbed the smaller box and looked at Kabuto with a look of excitement that a 4-year-old could manage. "Lead the way!" Kabuto chuckled at the kid. His attitude was the type of attitude that could put a smile on anyone's face. But deep down, he wished that Naruto chose not to help. Kabuto picked up the bigger box, and the two began to walk, having small, pointless conversations on the way to Kabuto's apartment. But before the two could even get 3/4 of the way there, Kabuto shoved Naruto into an alleyway and dropped a box of weapons. Naruto was confused and hurt from the fall, but before he could even say anything, there was a hand to his mouth, Before Naruto could process what was actually happening, he felt a burning sensation on his neck, and it was very painful. After a few seconds, his vision began to fade, and the hand on his mouth was gone, and he was now lightheaded. Another 3 seconds passed, and Naruto was now dead. Minato shot up in his office chair as he began to panic. The marker that he had placed on his son had faded. The only way that was possible is if his son was unconscious with his chakra sealed or worse. Minato instantly flashed to his home and told his wife Kushina, and the two of them quickly left the house and went to find their son. When they did, he was in an alleyway, on the ground, with his throat cut open, a box of weapons in the middle of the road, and there were very few signs that a struggle even happened. End of flashback. It was now 3 days after Naruto's funeral, and the village wasn't quite the same. It was mainly due to the Hokage and his wife. Minato was quickly showing signs that he wasn't fit for his job at the moment. His paperwork was starting to pile up. He pushed back all his meetings until he eventually just missed them. There were laws that were supposed to be put into place that never were put into place. And not only that, in the little amount of time that had passed, he seemed to have aged about 15 years. Kushina then burst into Minato's office. "Minato! Someone dug up Narukan's grave!" Minato looked up with a glare. "What?" Tears began to run down Kushina's cheeks as she fell to her knees. "Someone stole our son from his grave!" Minato immediately stood to his feet and flashed to the graveyard where Naruto was buried. And there it was. His grave was upturned. The casket he was put in was empty, and the boy himself was nowhere to be found. This infuriated Minato to no end. Off in the distance, Orochimaru stood over the body of Naruto with a smile. Once he had Kabuto kill him for his experiments, retrieving the body was the easy part. Orochimaru slowly stitched the cut on the boy's throat closed. He then began to check the boy for any more unnecessary damage. When he found none, Orochimaru smiled with a sick gleam in his eyes, and he immediately got to work. He put deep and shallow cuts all over the deceased 4-year-old's torso. He experimented with other things he had as well. He wanted to see how far he could go, how far he could completely strip a human of everything that makes them them, and turn them into a mindless bot that would only work for him. Orochimaru then opened up the boy and did something that no man could survive from. He ripped out the entirety of Naruto's chakra network and began to experiment on that. He started to twist and turn it in all different ways that it wasn't supposed to go. When Orochimaru was finally happy with what he had done to the now ruined chakra network, he went to his nearby mini fridge and took out 4 bags of plasma. He gave Naruto 4 IVs and began to run the plasma into the blonde to restore his red and white blood cell count. Orochimaru's hope for the boy was that he may be able to replace Kabuto since he left the teen out to dry. You see, Orochimaru, he didn't really like that Kabuto would feel bad for other people when he would go to do a mission. And Orochimaru knew that he may end up turning on him one day, so it was just better to get rid of him sooner rather than later and risk him turning on him. With Kabuto in Konoha, Kabuto unlocked the door to his apartment and he walked inside, locking the door behind him. He took off his sandals and he walked through the hallway as he flipped the light switch on. It's surprising how much you learn about someone when you actually look into them. Kabuto nearly jumped out of his skin as he heard the voice of the fourth Hokage. Minato was in Kabuto's home, and he was simply just looking out of the man's window when he walked in. The house itself was all in order. You couldn't even tell that all of Kabuto's stuff was gone through. Kabuto himself began to sweat. He knew he was caught. He wanted to run, but he knew that even if he tried, he would still die. Minato was the fastest man alive after all. His best bet was to try and kill Minato. The fourth Hokage turned and faced Kabuto. His gaze was colder than ice. A chill ran down Kabuto's spine, and it paralyzed him. How did he get caught? He was sure he covered all of his tracks, but yet he was being confronted by the yellow flash. When Minato finally took a step, Kabuto ended up getting control over his body, and he turned and ran. But it was all for nothing. Kabuto managed to get to his front door, but Minato and his speed were just in a league above Kabuto. He flashed behind him, and he hit him hard, causing him to crumble to the floor as if he were just a corpse. What made it worse for Kabuto was that the hit didn't knock him out. He was still fully conscious and could see and feel everything. Minato then hit him again, but the pain was so great that Kabuto wasn't able to scream properly. This is because the very first hit Minato gave to Kabuto was to the pressure point on his neck. So almost half of Kabuto's body locked up and froze from just the first hit alone. Minato tied him up with ninja wire and flashed away with him going back to his place. The two of them then appeared near Kushina, who was in the kitchen standing over the counter. She turned to see Minato dragging Kabuto towards the basement, and she immediately turned back around, forcing herself not to look as tears once again started to stream down her cheeks once she realized who that was. That was the guy who quickly earned the trust of her son, someone that her son looked up to, someone that her son was willing to help with anything, and to see her husband dragging him towards the basement, that meant he was the one who murdered their son. Time skip. 11 years later, a blonde boy woke up in his dark and messy room. The first thing he did upon waking up was grab the pills that were on his nightstand and swallow one. He looked at the pack in a dark room and sighed in frustration. The boy only had 12 left, and for him, that was bad. He needed those pills, yet he didn't know how to get them, where to get them, or how to even make them. Orochimaru then burst into the boy's room, causing him to jump. The boy wasn't what Orochimaru thought he could be. He was a failure to him, but he was also a lesson of what he was able to do when working on a broken body with zero life. That's the only reason, well, one of the only reasons why Orochimaru kept him for as long as he did, all while having the boy do tests and making his assistant Karin make the pills that he needed. Naruto-kun, I need you to come with me. There's another test I wish you would do. Orochimaru didn't even give Naruto time to speak. He just grabbed him by the back of the shirt and began to drag him out of the room and into the training room as he tossed him onto the marble floor. Orochimaru then walked up to his observation room as he let all of his decrepit experiments run free onto Naruto. He was hoping Naruto would end up dying for the second time during this, but as he feared, he did too good of a job on Naruto and his new abilities. Naruto looked around at all of the ravenous creatures around him. One of them then jumped at him, and without even thinking, his body filled with adrenaline. And without even trying, he punched a hole through the creature's chest, and it flew back and splattered against the wall. Naruto was then rushed by all of the remaining freaks around him. And with a large dosage of adrenaline pumping and recycling through his veins, his visual perception, his reaction time, his speed, his raw hand-to-hand power, it all was just on a completely different level. And that was just his base level abilities. Naruto ducked and weaved out of the way of all the hands, feet, and even the teeth that came at him. Naruto jumped back from all of them and sucked in a deep breath of air and waited. They all began to run at him once again, once they were all close enough. Once they were all 5 meters from him. They were all sliced clean in half by a sharp wind current that came from his body. Not his mouth, his body. Because Orochimaru ruined his chakra network and twisted it in ways that it shouldn't go, and then on top of that, put it back in the wrong way, there was now a ton of jutsu that he couldn't use, but there was also a handful that he could use and modify to make it more lethal. The only downside with that was that the jutsu needed to be within or close to his elemental affinity. Orochimaru slammed his fist into the desk in rage as he glared down at all of his hard work wasted. They were supposed to kill Naruto. He thought this time they would get it done, but like usual, every time Naruto was put in this situation, he always showed something new. Something that would help him get out of this situation and live just that much longer. And Orochimaru wasn't going to try and get rid of Naruto himself, because to him, even though he created him, he was just a huge unknown to him. That and his strength and reflexes alone were far superior to his. Orochimaru then saw something that surprised him. Naruto was on his knees, panting. Orochimaru smiled as he came down from his observation room. Now was his chance. He walked up to the blonde and kicked him in the face, putting him onto his back. He placed his foot onto his chest. Don't take this personally. You're just not what someone like myself is looking for in a human experiment like yourself. It was hard for Naruto to breathe as he grit his teeth and tried to remove Orochimaru's foot from his chest. Orochimaru regurgitated the Kusanagi blade and was about to decapitate Naruto, but an explosion rang out throughout the hideout. Orochimaru looked up and grit his teeth. Yet another reason why you are more trouble than you're actually worth. Orochimaru quickly left and fled the hideout, leaving an exhausted Naruto on his back. Out of nowhere, a bunch of Konoha Anbus began to flood the hideout. Naruto began to slowly get to his feet as he checked his pockets, making sure that he still had his pills on him. Once he was to his feet, he realized that there were 2 masked individuals standing in front of him. He took a step back, and they began to whisper between each other. They were more shocked than Naruto was, simply because they were seeing him here, standing, alive and well. Yet they both attended his funeral. Inu, that can't be him, can it? Inu kept his eyes locked onto Naruto. There is a possibility, Nico. Remember, his grave was robbed 3 days after his funeral. The way I see it, we take him in and we don't inform Hokage-sama or Lady Kushina. We get a blood test from the 3 of them, and then, if it's a match, then we inform them. Niku nodded, and all of a sudden, Naruto was knocked unconscious and a black bag was placed over his head. Once they cleared the hideout and took everything that was worth taking, they left and they took Naruto with them. Time skip 2 hours later. Naruto was awake and he was sitting in a hospital room. He was more confused than anything. The 2 Anbu he saw earlier were there and they were whispering to the doctors and nurses. At first they only wanted to just get blood from Naruto, but after a few minutes they came back and now they wanted to give Naruto a full head-to-toe physical. The nurses completely stripped him of all of his clothes and checked every single inch of his body. When everything was done with the physical, he was given a new set of clothes. Then both of the Anbu that were watching over him stepped up to him and removed their masks. Naruto, you may not know me, or remember me, or my subordinate here, but I'm Kakashi Hatake. And this is Yugao Uzuki. We need you to come with us. Kakashi and Yugao both grabbed onto Naruto and body flickered away. They appeared outside of the Hokage's office, and they could hear the 2 voices inside. It was the Hokage and his wife, and the 2 of them were arguing. It wasn't necessarily arguing. It was just Kushina taking out her anger, pain, and frustration of losing their only child onto Minato. Minato himself, however, never raised his voice at his wife. Why? Because why should a woman bring him down so low to where now he has to yell and scream and come out of a man's position and enter a woman's and child position and start yelling and throwing a tantrum? He loved his wife and he respected her, but she wasn't able to get him to raise his voice at her. Not that she wanted him to do that. Minato then heard a knock at the door and he looked at his wife as he took a deep breath. Come in. Kakashi and Yugao both came in, leaving Naruto to wait outside, which confused him. If he wasn't gonna go in, then why was he here? Hokage-sama, Lady Kushina. We are sorry to interrupt your talk. Kushina turned around, feeling embarrassed. She didn't like the fact that her and Minato always seemed to be fighting, and she really didn't like that people could hear her screaming at her husband, who did nothing to her, and treated her like she was royalty. Minato waved his hand. It's fine. You're not interrupting anything. What is it that you need? Kakashi paused, not knowing how to say the next part, so he looked over at Yugao, who understood his predicament. Lady Kushina, Hokage-sama, there's someone we want the 2 of you to meet. Minato sighed and Kushina turned around. Why did it matter if they wanted them to meet someone? It wasn't going to help them get Orochimaru for his horrific plan he had Kabuto do, and it wasn't going to get their son back. That was the line of thought that Kushina was in. Minato motioned for them to bring in whoever it was that they were supposed to meet. But when the 2 of them opened the door and they saw who stepped through, Everything was silent. Naruto looked around the office before his eyes locked onto Kushina. "Is Karin your daughter?" Naruto got no answer. Minato sat there behind his desk, his mouth slightly agape as tears began to well up in his eyes, and he began to slightly hyperventilate from the shock of seeing someone, not someone, his son, who was supposed to be dead. Kushina, however, she had her hands covering her mouth, and she was actively crying. She choked on hiccups, and she wiped her tears away as her knees nearly buckled before she finally spoke. "Naruto-chan, is that you?" Naruto blinked and nodded, not getting what was going on. Why were these two crying? Kushina ran up to Naruto and enveloped him into a hug as she put her face into his neck and continued to cry as she held her and Minato's son. Naruto was confused as to why this woman was hugging him and crying on him. That was until she called him son. But guys, we're going to end it off right there. If you guys want the next part of this video, remember the like goal is 5 likes, but if you want the next part of this video really fast, the like goal is 15 likes. But make sure you hit that subscribe button. And without further ado, I am out, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.